last, I don't know, 10, 15 pages of Philosopher's Stone, and then we'll jump into Chamber of Secrets. I want to pick up where Harry wakes up in the infirmary. And he wakes up, there's Dumbledore smiling at him. And Harry, first thing out of his mouth, the stone. It was Quirrell. He's got the stone. Dumbledore says, calm down, etc. He tells Harry, shows him, the loot piled next to him. Harry asks, how long have I been in here? 3 days. He goes on about the stone again. Dumbledore says, okay, you're not going to be distracted. All right. Quirrell didn't take it from you. Okay. Harry, you got there? You got Hermione's owl? He says, no, I must have crossed mid-air. So I just thought I needed to be back. Okay. Harry, when Dumbledore says, I feared I might be too late. You nearly were. I couldn't have kept him off the stone much longer, Harry says. Not the stone, boy, you. The effort involved nearly killed you. For one terrible moment there, I was afraid it had. The stone's been destroyed. Harry, but your friend, Nicholas Flamel. And that's where Dumbledore says, you did do the thing rightly. In other words, you did research. You learned about Nicholas Flamel. Nicholas and I have had a little talk, and it's agreed it's all for the best. Okay, Nicholas Flamel is a real character, is a real person. Nicholas and Perenelle Flamel were 16th century French alchemists. Okay, she lifts them out of history, all right? Harry, but that means he and his wife will die, doesn't it? Or won't they? Dumbledore, they have enough elixir stored to set their affairs in order, and then, yes, they will die. Harry's just, dumbfounded. He has a look of amazement on his face. And Dumbledore says, to one as young as you, I'm sure it seems incredible, but to Nicholas and Perenelle, it really is like going to bed after a very, very long day. Now, how many of you have gone to bed after a very, very long day? And define very, very long day. Has anybody stayed awake 36 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours? I finished my undergraduate degree, small liberal arts Christian college down on Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, called Covenant College. I'm from San Jose, California, South Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. It's about 2,600 mile drive. Okay, I would do that drive nonstop. I would drive from Chattanooga to San Jose. I mean, I'd stop for gas, obviously, but I wouldn't stop and sleep. And that's about, if I was really pushing it, this is back when the highway speed limit was 60, so 70, 75, I'd get it done in about 35, 36 hours. If I wasn't really pushing it, it'd be more like 39 to 40. But by the time I arrived at my destination, whether that was home or school, I was pretty tired. But I was also so jacked up on caffeine, I was twitchy. I think that's what he's implying. When you're so tired, you lay down and you can't sleep. Your mind's just, okay. How old are Nicholas and Perenelle? Anybody know? They're in their 600s. And I don't remember where this shows up, because it doesn't show up actually in the books. I think she says in an interview somewhere. He's 665. Okay? Think of the symbolism. They have enough elixir to set their affairs in order, and then they will die. The implication is he dies when he's 666. Okay? You understand how the wackos kind of came a little bit more out of the woodwork. So, he gives this quote then, or he says this. After all, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. Now, that needs to get unpacked. Okay? Death is not what? Yeah. It's not the end, Rowling is telling us. Or Dumbledore is telling us. It's not. You die, and then the atoms that make up your body and the electrochemical impulses in your brain that make up your soul, according to this worldview, merely dissipate. And what you consider to be you, or if you think you have a soul, that just disappears. You don't go on at all, okay? Series of books that started to come out about the same time as J.K. Rowling's, known by the overall title, His Dark Materials, the titles of the individual books, The Golden Compass, or Northern Lights, The Amber Spyglass, and The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. They argue that perspective. You die, and then you dissolve, and that's it. There is no soul that goes on. It's just nonsense. Okay? His Dark Materials comes from John Milton's Paradise Lost. And the entire series is taking the perspective of Satan. The hero, Philip Pullman believed, of John Milton's Paradise Lost, which is about the fall from grace, the fall from innocence of Adam and Eve, but also Satan and Lucifer and the angels. Satan's the good guy. God's the bad guy. Okay? Just a little bit of Pullman's mentality here. So, Rowling is saying the opposite. Yeah, the body dies. But to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. In other words, death is like that doorway. Okay? And beyond that doorway lies a great adventure. But only for whom? It's not for everybody.
For those who believe.
No. For those who have well-organized minds. So what does that mean to have a well-organized mind? Is it to those who believe? Because she doesn't address that, not here. She does address that a little bit towards the end of book 5, and then it kind of comes up in a couple other places. So it's this idea of having your mind organized. What's another way of talking about an organized mind? How do you organize your mind? Is it like your desktop or your desktop? You open my desktop, and it's just, well, it was until about a week ago, because I had hard drive problems. I had to copy stuff over. It was just cluttered. Just, one document after another. Just all higgledy-piggledy all over. You go into my office, and my desk is kind of the same. That's not a well-organized desk. Okay? So what does she mean by well-organized mind?
Your thoughts are everywhere.
Okay, so what do you do with, let's say, aspects of your daily life? What do you have to do in order to succeed in our world? To succeed in college? Plan. What's another word starts with P? Hermione uses it, and I think in the first film, in this section about going through the trap door. You got to have the right priorities. You have to prioritize, right? I mean, you've got a major exam coming up in a class, and you've got a quiz in another class. Is it really smart to study for the quiz or to study for the major exam? Your boss gives you 2 jobs, one of which you can get fired if you don't do, the other of which is really not that important. Do you do this one? No, you do the one that's really important. So it's prioritizing. It's knowing what's important. Is Dumbledore going to explain that in this section? Nope. He's putting that idea out there. Okay? So, to the well-organized mind, death is what? Notice, it's not just a continuation. It's not a bright light, Harry. It's not a tunnel. You find your way down. Notice he's also saying, not everybody goes on the adventure. Why? Some people die without well-organized minds. We've already met some of them. Nearly headless Nick. Peeves is a poltergeist. A little bit different. He's not a former human being. Nearly headless Nick and the Bloody Baron, okay, they're both dead people. So they're people who are dead, but are kind of still around. She's going to address that in later books. So, he goes on. You know, the stone was really not such a wonderful thing. As much money in life as you could want. Okay, how old is Harry? He's 11. What does he think when Dumbledore says that? The hell are you smoking, old man? What do you mean? As much money in life as you could want are not such a wonderful thing. How many people in here would say, if I could grant you as much money as you wanted in life, would you say that's a good thing? I bet, I'm not going to, but I'll bet most of you, or many of you would say, yeah, I'd say that's a good thing. I mean, let's say you're being extremely altruistic. As much money as you could want, you could do what with it? You could give it to people. You could lift people out of poverty. In other words, you could use it not for yourself. You could use it for others. That would be good. Life. So, as much money in life as you could want. The two things most human beings would choose above all. So, Dumbledore says, most humans would choose money and life. First two things. Trouble is, humans have a knack of choosing precisely those things that are worse for them. Now, he says, these are the two things most people would choose. But most people also have a knack for choosing the things that are worst for them. Is he saying money and life are the things that would be worse for us? So if those are the things that are worst for us, what would be the things that are best for us? Death and poverty? Okay. Think about this for a moment. Is he telling Harry, you should be poor? It's not what he's saying. Is he telling Harry, you should go kill yourself? Suicide, yeah, that's the way. That's how you organize your mind. No, he's not. But he's talking about all this within the context of organizing your mind. Okay? So, where in the organization of your mind, where in the prioritizing of your mind should money and immortality, for lack of a better phrase, be? Below friends and family? Okay. So you've just prioritized two things. Notice, what are money and immortality? Well, they're the two things the Philosopher's Stone confers. They're the two base things that I talked about that first day. The two surface level things. Okay? What else does the Philosopher's Stone confer? If you're a medieval alchemist, it confers transformation and purification. Okay? Now, work with me for a little bit. Life, wealth, death, poverty. Rowling said in that interview that I mentioned that if she were to talk about how her Christianity, her understanding of Christianity, informed her work, it would give away the end, probably meaning book 7. Might she also be saying that if I were to really talk about that, it would give away some of the other stuff? Because what does Christ tell his disciples to do? His followers to do? He says, you want eternal life? What must you do? Take up your cross and follow me. What's that mean? Does that mean literally, like, some Filipinos do every Easter? Crucify yourself, get nailed to a cross? Does it mean literally walking around the world with a big old heavy cross on your back? No, it doesn't mean that. What does it mean, though? What's the cross there represent? What does Christ say, to Peter when Peter cuts off the servant of the high priest's ear? He says, come on, Pete, stop. I could have what? He says, I could have a whole garrison of soldiers, angels. But he doesn't. What does he do? He denies himself. What's denying oneself if you take it to its logical extension? Yeah. Choosing death over life. Well, what else are you therefore choosing as part of that? What does he say to the rich young man who comes to him and says, Master, what must I do to be saved? And he says, what does the law say? Okay, what are the two greatest commandments? Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. He says, yeah, that's right. Okay, so do that. Well, how do I do that? And he gives the story of the Good Samaritan. Go, sell all that you have, that is, there's all the money gone, and follow me. Well, follow me implies what? Do what I do. Well, what does he do? He hangs on a cross. There's the death part. Is Rowling possibly suggesting that with this? Because he says, okay, stone wasn't such a good thing. Why? It gives you as much money in life as you want. That is, you never have to die. You never have to confront death. And it'll make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. Only problem is, most human beings choose precisely those things. Notice he says that are worst for them. I think he's saying untold wealth and immortality here. Immortality in this would be the worst things. Okay. Why? I mean, leave all the Christianity stuff I just talked about out for a moment. Why would immortality in this body be the worst thing? What does immortality not mean? Okay, it doesn't mean, my 56-year-old body, or let's back it up a little bit, my 36-year-old body or my 26-year-old body. It doesn't mean you stop aging. It doesn't mean time stops passing for you. Okay? It just means you don't die, but you keep going. In other words, you're the living Energizer Bunny. You just keep going, and what happens to all your friends and family and loved ones? They die, and you make more friends, and maybe you start another family, and they die, and that goes on for how long? That would suck, wouldn't it? It's bad enough to lose one family member, but to do it again and again and again and again and again.
So you just stop trying to make friends with them.
And you seek what? Death. But you can't die. Okay? That would be horrible. Okay? Tolkien talks about this a little bit in an essay on fairy stories and such that he writes, that I mentioned on the page. So, Harry lay there, lost for words. He's thinking, what are you talking about? He's 11 years old. He can't even think of being 15, much less 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 1,000, etc. Okay? So, Stone's gone. You call him by his name, Harry. Okay, Voldemort. He's going to try other ways of coming back, isn't he? I mean, he's not gone, right? Harry's kind of going, I didn't kill him, did I? No, Harry, he's not. He's still out there somewhere, perhaps looking for another body to share, not being truly alive. He cannot be killed. He left Quirrell to die. Nevertheless, Harry, while you may only have delayed his return to power, it will merely take someone else who's prepared to fight what seems a losing battle to stop him. He says that maybe he'll be delayed permanently. Who knows? Harry goes, okay, there's some things I want to know the truth about. And Dumbledore, the truth. Beautiful and terrible thing. Treat it with caution. He goes, I won't lie to you, Harry. I may not answer your question, but I won't lie to you. Harry, Voldemort said he only killed my mother because she tried to stop him from killing me. See, this, I think, is what Harry kind of implies before he goes to the trapdoor and says, okay, so if I get caught, I'll get expelled, I'll go back to the Dursleys, and it'll only be dying a little bit later because Voldemort will find me there. But he doesn't know yet that Voldemort was out to kill him particularly. Quirrell/Voldemort tell him that. Why would he want to kill me in the first place? Dumbledore. Next question. Says, alas, the first thing you asked me, I cannot tell you. Liar. He can tell him. He chooses not to tell him. Okay? Harry, okay. Why couldn't Quirrell touch me? Your mother died to save you. In other words, she did what? She sacrificed herself. He says, Voldemort cannot understand love. He said, your mother's love left a mark on you. Harry's kind of like, what do you mean, a scar? He goes, no, not a physical mark. He says it's in your very body, so Quirrell couldn't touch that. Harry, the invisibility cloak. There's another, yeah, your father left that in my possession. Okay, so what does this mean? Use it well. So the headmaster's given me permission to go invisible and... Okay. Your father, notice, used it mainly for sneaking off to the kitchens to steal food when he was here. Now what did Dumbledore just do? He gave him an idea of something he could do. Something else. Quirrell said Snape. Professor Snape, Harry. It's the first time he does this. He never stops. All the way till the end of book 6. When Harry says Snape. Even just before something happens in book 6, Dumbledore's like, Professor Snape, Harry, you know, we've been together 6 years now. When are you going to get it through your head? Give the man some respect. Yeah, him, Harry says. Quirrell said he hates me because he hated my father. He says, yes, they did. They hated each other. Why? Your father saved his life. Harry's thinking, Dad, why? Just one answer, please. Okay? How did I get the stone out of the mirror? Dumbledore's, well, brilliance of my own, Okay? So, we get to the end of the year feast, and Gryffindor win the House Cup. Why? Because of last minute points. Because of Neville. Why does Dumbledore, quiz question, why does Dumbledore give Neville those points?
Because it takes courage to stand up to your enemies and more to stand up to your friends.
Takes courage to stand up to your enemies, but more to stand up to your friends. Why? They're 11 years old. What confronts 11-year-olds, I would say probably more than it does us? Peer pressure. You want to be liked. You want to get to be part of the in crowd. Is Neville part of the in crowd in the first book? No. Second book? No. Third book? No. Fourth book? No. Fifth book? By the end? Yes. Yes. Okay. But only by the end. Okay, so jump into Chamber of Secrets. So, Harry leaves school. Hagrid gives him a scrapbook full of pictures of his parents. And he's back off at the Dursleys, counting down the days to his birthday. His birthday comes and goes. And what kind of messages has he gotten from his friends? None. And the day isn't going well. The Dursleys are having dinner guests over. Harry gets in trouble. He has to do the weeding, the mowing, everything. And then he doesn't even get to eat dinner with the family. He gets shunted on up to his room. At least he's no longer in the cupboard under the stairs. Okay? And he goes up to his room. And there, page 12, is a creature sitting on Harry's bed with bulging eyes the size of tennis balls, large bat-like ears, and Harry says, hello, Harry Potter. Okay. Harry, what are you? Sorry. He meant to say, who are you? Or meant to say, what are you? And says instead, who are you? Dobby said, just Dobby. Harry, not a good time for you to be here. And Dobby hangs his head. Harry's like, sorry. Why are you here? Come to warn you. Harry says, shh, sit down. Points to the bed. And Dobby bursts into tears. Harry, didn't mean to offend you. Offend Dobby? Dobby's never been asked to sit down by a wizard, sir, like an equal. Like an equal. Okay? Dobby tells Harry, I'm a house elf. What does Harry know about house elves? Has Harry never read a book at Hogwarts that mentions anything about house elves? He has an entire class called the History of Magic. You think it never includes anything about... Well, he probably hasn't opened his textbook for the History of Magic because he copies everything from Hermione. Okay? So Harry tries to calm him down. And he says, you can't have met many decent wizards. Is Harry saying, like me, I'm a decent wizard? What does Harry mean there by decent?
Just something.
This is just, something a normal person would do. Offer you a place to... What is Harry's assumption there? This is what a normal... Would Malfoy? No. Do you think Ron would offer Dobby a place to sit? I don't. Hermione might. I'm not sure. But Harry is assuming everybody is like him. And Harry is, if nothing else, thoroughgoingly decent. Okay? We're going to see in book 4. So, Dobby starts banging his head against the window, and Harry's like, stop. Dobby talks about needing to punish himself. Says he shouldn't be there, etc. Harry, why don't you escape? In other words, your life sounds pretty bad. Okay? What was Harry's like 5 minutes before this? It's pretty bad. Okay? And now Harry meets somebody else whose life seemingly is what? Worse. The house elf must be set free, sir, and the family would never set Dobby free. Dobby will serve the family till he dies, Harry. And I thought I had it bad. Staying here for another 4 weeks. In other words, 4 weeks, and I got freedom. Poor guy. He serves till he's dead. This makes the Shut up. This makes the Dursleys sound almost human. Can't anyone help you? Can't I? There he is again. Harry the Helper. Okay. Dobby wails. Shh. Dobby has heard of your greatness, sir, but of your goodness. Okay, notice 2 things he's just said about Harry. 1, I've heard of your greatness. 2, I've heard of your goodness. Where would he hear of these? Well, the goodness he's not going to hear. He hears of his greatness from the Malfoys. Do they talk about, that dratted Harry Potter, he's so great? No, but they talk about Harry, and Dobby assumes that it's greatness. So, but of your goodness, Dobby never knew. Harry, it's a load of rubbish. I mean, Hermione, she's top of the air. Dobby, Harry Potter is humble and modest. So, great, good, humble, modest. Harry Potter speaks not of his triumph over him who must not be named. Voldemort, speak not. He goes all bananas. Okay. Dobby says, I heard you escaped again. Harry, oh, yeah, that. Harry Potter is valiant and bold. Great, good, humble, modest. I can't remember the others. Valiant, bold. But I've come to protect you. I've come to warn you. Harry Potter must stay where he is safe. He is too great, too good to lose. In other words, you can't go back to Hogwarts. For Harry, that's like what? Yeah, just kill me now. I can't go back. I can't stay here. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. He is too important, sir. What terrible things. Who's playing? Voldemort doesn't have a brother, does he? So, Harry mentions Dumbledore. What does Dobby do? Page 17. He bows his head like in worship. Albus Dumbledore is the greatest headmaster Hogwarts has ever had. Dobby knows it, sir. Dobby's heard Dumbledore, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, Harry says, I can't stay. Dobby implies something about Harry's friends not writing him. Harry puts 2 and 2 together. Dobby admits, I kept the letters. Harry begs Dobby not to stop him. He says, I've got to go back. And Dobby does what? He goes downstairs. He takes the pudding and does what with it? Not what is done in the film, right? In the film, he just turns it upside down and makes a mess in the kitchen. Here, okay, go back for a second. Yeah, dumps it on Mrs. What's her name? I'm trying to find her name here. Mrs. Drill Person, okay? So, immediately, they get a warning from Mafalda Hopkirk, and Harry goes to bed, and he's toast, man. I mean, he's locked in his room, bars put on the door, Hedwig's locked up. So, the Weasley brothers come and rescue Harry. Okay? They figure something's wrong. Well, which Weasley brothers do this? Fred, George, and Ron. Percy doesn't. So, they come in the flying car. They go back to the Weasleys, to the Burrow. They meet up with Mrs. Weasley, who, page 33, is very put out, let's say. But not with Harry. She doesn't blame Harry at all. Why? It's Harry's fault. He didn't ask them to come rescue him. They just did. She's worried because she's afraid her husband's going to get in trouble that they might have been seeing in a flying car, that kind of stuff. So, Harry gets to stay with the Weasleys for the rest of the summer. And I'm skipping a bunch. While there, he meets Ginny, and Ginny, every time she sees him, turns beet red, runs and hides. Okay? And he's there for the first day, and Ron's like, I know, it's just a dump, because the Weasley house, the Burrows, a house that's just continually added onto. And Harry's like, this is the greatest place in the world. I mean, it's got nooks and crannies, it's got a ghoul in the attic, gnomes out in the yard, not the ones that are plastic and don't move, real gnomes. And he gets to practice, clearing the yard of gnomes and such. Okay? But it's time to get their school books. So they go off to Diagon Alley to Flourish and Blots. Now, we hear a little bit about somebody they're going to meet, Flourish and Blots, prior to this. Who is it they're going to meet? Gilderoy Lockhart. What do we hear about him? I almost said Malfoy. Mrs. Weasley has a bit of a crush on him. Why? He's handsome. Okay. What's his name? Kenneth Branagh was a good choice. Okay. But they should have let him do it with long hair. Because Gilderoy Lockhart's supposed to have fairly long hair. So that when he walks in the room, he kind of, does a Fabio thing. Whips his hair around. Okay. But the scene where he comes down and holds the book and goes, me. Just perfect. Okay? So why else does she fancy him?
His books make him sound like a hero.
His books make him sound, look what he's done. I mean, who else fancies him?
Hermione.
Well, not everyone. Harry and Ron don't.
Ladies.
Women do. Not only is he handsome, it's like Chris Hemsworth on the cover.
Yeah.
But look what he's done. Okay? So they get to Flourish and Blots. And who else do they run into? Okay. Let's see here. Pick up with... And I'm skipping the whole thing about Harry using the flu powder and ending up in Nocturne Alley. Nocturne, as well as Knockturn, like the School of Hard Knocks. Okay, so they see the Malfoys. Harry overhears, at Borgin and Burke's and stuff, and I want to pick up with. Page 58, in the chapter at Flourish and Blots. They're in the bookstore, and Percy's got his nose in a book he's just pulled off a shelf. And we're told it is a book called Prefects Who Gained Power, a study of Hogwarts prefects and their later careers. Ron reads aloud off the back cover. That sounds fascinating. Go away, Percy snaps. Of course, he's very ambitious, Percy, Ron tells Harry. He's got it all planned out. He wants to be Minister of Magic. In other words, what does Percy really want? Power. That's what he wants. Okay? So, we see the sign about Gilderoy Lockhart. He comes in and he gets a picture of himself with Harry Potter. Talks about Harry a little bit. And then we hear page 61. Bet you love that, didn't you, Potter? Famous Harry Potter. Can't even go into a bookshop without making the front page. Ginny, leave him alone. He didn't want to, knives around, man. Oh, Potter, you've got yourself a girlfriend, drawls Malfoy. Ron, oh, it's you. Looking at Malfoy as if he were something unpleasant on the sole of his shoe. Bet you're surprised to see Harry here. Not as surprised as I am to see you in a shop, meaning you poor little. Okay? So, after that we hear, well, Arthur Weasley. It was Mr. Malfoy. Lucius. Busy time at the ministry, I hear. All those raids. I hope they're paying you overtime. Well, we've heard about the raids, okay, that the ministry is making on certain people. And he pulls out of Ginny's cauldron a book. Tattered, battered, old. A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration. And he says, after saying, I hope they're paying you overtime, obviously not. Because if they were, he'd be able to buy a new book for her. Dear me, what's the use of being a disgrace to the name of wizard if they don't even pay you well for it? Notice what Malfoy betrays about himself there. You pay me well enough and what? I'll betray wizards. Money is important to him. Not loyalty, not honor, not integrity. Mr. Weasley, we have a very different idea of what disgraces the name of wizard. Malfoy. Okay. Malfoy, right after what disgraces the name of wizard. What does Malfoy mean? Talked about it the other day. Bad faith. He's kind of saying, it's in your nature to betray the name of wizard. Because you have bad faith. Okay? And suddenly, boom! Arthur leaps over Ginny's cauldron, and he and Malfoy are at it, hammer and tongs. Hagrid pulls them apart. Here, girl, take your book, Malfoy says. It's the best your father can give you. And drops it into the cauldron. Okay? Hagrid, you should have ignored him, Arthur. Rotten to the core of the whole family, everyone knows that. No Malfoy's worth listening to her. Why? Bad blood, that's what it is. Come on now, let's get out of here. Okay? Notice what Hagrid says there. The Malfoys, all of them, rotten to the core. That means what? Hillary Clinton used a term to describe her political opponents. She used two, actually. Irredeemable. What was the other one? Anybody know?
Basket of deplorables.
Basket of deplorables. Okay? That's what Hagrid means. The Malfoys are irredeemable and deplorable. If you're irredeemable, that obviously means what? The ear means not. Too far gone. No good. Rotten to the core means there's not an ounce of goodness left in it. Okay? And then he explains even more, or he amplifies that. Bad blood. What's the problem with the phrase bad blood? Okay, they're pure blood. Okay. Mudblood means bad blood. What else does it imply? What's this? What's Hagrid showing here?
That he has a history with them.
Okay, possibly he has a history with him. Blood can determine if you're good and bad.
Runs in the family.
Runs in the family. You're all dancing around the edge. It's prejudice. That's a prejudice. Okay. So they leave. Mrs. Weasley's just bent out of shape. A fine example to set for your children. Brawling in public. Oh, what Gilderoy Lockhart must have thought. Okay? So, they go back to home. September 1st comes around. It's time to take Hogwarts Express. Harry and Ron can't get through the barrier. They try and try and try. They can't. Ron comes up with the idea, hey, there's a flying Ford ENGL parked outside Dad's. Why don't we take it? Harry's like, you think? Sure, what the hell? Why not, you know? And so they take this old car and fly it through the north of England. Of course, they're seen. And when they land, they don't really land. They crash land into the Whomping Willow, get the crap beat out of them and the car. The car dumps them, drives away. And page 77, they make their way up to the school. They look into the windows of the Great Hall, and they see Snape's not at the high table. See, the Great Hall, and this hall is actually, it's filmed at the Christ Church Great Hall at Christ Church College at Oxford. I take my students there when I do my Harry Potter course. And they all go, oh, you know, jaws dropping. They're totally amazed. When you go in there, there are 3 tables, okay, in the actual Christ Church one. I know there's 4 in the Harry Potter one. And they're pretty long tables. I mean, they're good 80 feet long. I mean, they're pretty long. And down at the end of the hall is a dais, and on that is the table where all the professors and the headmaster of the college eat. Okay? So there's an empty seat where Snape should be. And what happens? Harry, hang on, there's an empty chair. Ron, maybe he's ill. Like, maybe he's got cancer. Harry, maybe he's left because he missed out on the defense against the dark arts job again. Because what did Gilderoy Lockhart declare at Flourish and Blotts? I'm the new Dada teacher. Okay? Ron, or you might have been sacked. He says enthusiastically. That probably means voice raised a little bit. I mean, he's getting excited. I mean, everyone hates him. Well, what happened the last time Ron said everyone hates? Hermione burst by in tears, you know. But this time, it's not Hermione. Or maybe, says a cold voice behind them, he's waiting to hear why you didn't arrive on the train. In other words, gotcha. Okay? So, they get in trouble, but they don't get in trouble with Snape, right? They get in trouble with McGonagall. Well, why not Snape? He's not the head of their house. Okay? So, McGonagall's called. She comes down. Ron, what house is my sister in? She's in Gryffindor. Oh, good. And speaking of Gryffindor, she starts to say, because where is she going? Yeah. Points from a house because of both of you. In other words, it's like the semester hasn't really even begun and they've already got the house in the hole, point-wise. And Harry interrupts. When we took the car, term hadn't started, so Gryffindor shouldn't really have points taken from it. I mean, should it? In other words, this is fair. I mean, we're going to follow the rules, aren't we? McGonagall gave him a piercing look, but he was sure she had almost smiled. Why? Okay, we're reading into it here a little bit. Why does Harry think McGonagall almost smiles? What's going on in McGonagall's mind?
Same.
Okay. What else? Way to go, Harry. That was pretty fast. That was thinking very quickly. I will not take any points from Gryffindor, but you'll both get a detention. In other words, you're both in trouble still. Okay? What's Ron's detention? He's got to polish all the silver. What's Harry's detention?
To write letters.
He's got to write, fan letters for Gilderoy Lockhart. Okay? So, McGonagall raises a wand, points it at Snape's desk, and boom, there's suddenly sandwiches, goblets, iced pumpkin juice appear with a pop. What a softie. I mean, she doesn't just send him upstairs, hungry. Okay? So, they tell Seamus, Dean, Neville what happened. They're like, cool. Next day, Ron gets what?
Out.
at breakfast. He gets a howler, okay, which really blows up. And they're on their way to Professor Sprout's class, and Lockhart grabs Harry, pulls him aside. Why does he want to talk to Harry? What's he think Harry tried to do? Get on the front page again? He says, Harry, page 91, Harry, I understand. Natural to want a bit more once you had that first taste. First taste of what? Publicity. I blame myself for giving you that, because bound to go to your head, you know. It's all right for him, that is Lockhart. He's an internationally famous wizard already. I mean, when I was 12, I was just as much of a nobody as you are now. I mean, even more. I mean, a few people have heard of you. Really? You know, with that business with he who must not be named. All that business, like it's a little minor story buried on page A40, you know, of the New York Times or something. I mean, it's not quite as good. What? As winning which weekly's Most Charming Smile Award 5 times in a row. I mean, Harry's been on, let's say, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News. I'll even throw, if you want to consider it news, but it's not MSNBC and CNN. What's which weekly?
People magazine.
People. Us. Me magazine, essentially. Okay? So, they go off to Sprout's class where they deal with what? Mandrakes. Interesting. Okay. So, they're still there, and Harry overhears Justin Finch Fletchley talking, page 93. And Justin comes up to Harry and tells him who he is. Know who you are, of course, famous Harry Potter. You're Hermione Granger, topping everything. And Ron Weasley, wasn't that your flying car? Ron doesn't smile. He still hears his mother's voice. He says, man, that Lockhart, he's something, isn't he? Awfully brave chap. Have you read the books? I'd have died of fear. And then he tells them, my name was down for Eton, you know. What is Eton? It's a college preparatory school. It is a boarding school like Hogwarts. Okay? Hogwarts, the whole series of novels, is based upon the British boarding school genre of fiction. There's a whole bunch of books based on this kind of setting where students go through their years of school there. When he says, my name was down for Eton, however, he doesn't only mean I was set for this particular British boarding. What is Eton? It is the college preparatory school in England. It's where, for example, almost all of the future prime ministers go. It's where the royal family goes. Okay? So, I mean, it's where the upper crust of society mixes and meets and networks. Okay? So Justin is telling us, I'm not some lower class Cockney bloke, okay, from London. I am upper class. But what else does it mean? He's muggle-born. Okay? His parents were muggles. But he says, came here instead, and mother was slightly disappointed, but I made her read Lockhart's books, and now she thinks it's useful to have a fully trained wizard. All right? So, we find out Justin is muggle-born. Ron's having a problem with his wand. We find out, Malfoy overhears Colin Creevey wanting to take Harry's picture, which then Lockhart hears about it, thinks Harry's trying to get more publicity and such. Okay? And they go off to Defense Against the Dark Arts. And Lockhart walks down the steps, comes in, points a picture at himself, and says, me, Gilderoy Lockhart, page 99, Order of Merlin, 3rd class. Okay, 3rd class anything is what? Yeah, big freaking deal, it's not that much. What else does he have? honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League. Honorary member, like getting an honorary PhD, means what? You didn't earn it. If he's an honorary member, then how much has he really done? Good question. And 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. That's the thing he's most proud of. Okay? But I don't talk about that. But he just did. Okay? That's a rhetorical device, by the way. I didn't get rid of the abandoned banshee by smiling at her, and so everybody kind of... And he says, I see you've all bought my books, like he's surprised, and yet they're required texts. Now, this might be, I don't know if it is or not, but this might be J.K. Rowling taking a little jab at professors who require students to buy their own books, especially if the books are quote-unquote vanity published. Okay? I mean, if I were to write a book, let's say I write a book and I get it published by Oxford University Press. It's not a vanity publisher. It is one of the premier academic publishers in the world. Or I could write a book and I could have it published by Lang Publishers. Okay. That is a vanity press. Or Edwin Mellon Publishers. Because what you do when you publish with them is you say, I will guarantee that so many people will buy these books. And what that really means is you cut them a check to print 500 copies. Okay? That will then get distributed to libraries or something. Individual people will actually never buy those books. They will never see those books. Those books might as well never have been written. Kind of, So, he requires all these books to be bought. So what kind of quiz does he give?
Quiz of himself.
Yeah, it's all about me. Okay. Favorite color, how he'd solve the world's problems, what his favorite drink is, and who obviously gets 100. Hermione, because she's read them and memorized them. We're never actually told, but I think it's implied. Hermione might have a photographic memory. It's never said, but she remembers everything she reads. That's kind of the definition of photographic memory. There are people who can do this and read this and be able to tell you what word is the 18th word on page 93. Because they just kind of go and pull it back, right? So, he thinks, my book is falling apart. Let's have a practical exam. How well does that practical exam go? Okay? Why? Because he's an idiot. Okay? Who puts away the Cornish pixies? Primarily. Harry, Ron, and Hermione. What happens to poor Neville? He ends up swinging from a lamp or a chandelier or something. Okay? Hermione. When Harry says, Hermione, page 103, he didn't have a clue what he was doing. Rubbish, says Hermione. You read his books. Look at all those amazing things he's done. Ron, he says he's done. Okay? And this is an important idea Rowling brings up in this book, and she's going to follow it up in later books. For Hermione, what is the source of all real knowledge? Books. What's Hermione's attitude towards books? Or writing? It always does what? It's always true. Books don't lie. Okay? Next book, Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry's going to find a book. It's a blank book, however. But he's going to find a book, and he's going to sit in his bed, and he's going to pull out his inkwell, pull out his quill, and he drops, accidentally, a blob of ink onto the page, and it sucks away. Sorry, yeah, it's this. What am I talking about? Okay. It's going to happen shortly, in fact.
And actually, he dropped all of his books, and the ink just happened.
Well, yeah, that's late. That's earlier. Okay, I'm talking about when he goes up to his room and he sees it disappear. So he writes on it. My name is Harry Potter. The words disappear, and then they come back. Okay? And so we get the problem of Tom Riddle's diary here. Where else, later books, for those of you who have read them, where else do we see the problem of believing what is written? What's the number one publication in the wizarding world, apparently?
The Daily Prophet.
Daily Prophet. What would the Daily Prophet be in our world? New York Times. I think that's a pretty good example because they're both full of, you know what? Okay. New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, Miami Herald. Okay. If you're in England, the Times of London, or maybe the Daily Telegraph. Okay. There's another publication that nobody respects. What's that called? The Quibbler. What would that be in our world? National Enquirer, the Star, the Globe and Mail. Okay. For some, the Daily Mail in England, or the Sun in England. Okay. Why? Because those publications are all called what? Tabloids. Those are the things you pick up in the checkout counter at the grocery store that say, Elvis found on Venus. Okay? Or, Kim Kardashian discovered to be a virgin, or, something like that. Some outlandish, ludicrous claim. The Pope, a closet Nazi or whatever. Okay? Just completely crazy. So how do you know which one's telling the truth? How do you determine? Well, there's another book also that is going to be read, that some people read it, and they read it like it's gospel truth, like it's good for you, and others are a little... So Rowling's introducing this idea to how should you approach written material?
A grain of salt.
Grain of salt, skeptically, critically. Okay? Mr. Weasley, we're going to hear, has said what? Never trust something that you don't know where it keeps its brain. Where does this keep its brain? That's all of it. Okay? So, they go on. And Harry's got Quidditch practice. We're going to skip a bunch. And they're out there practicing Quidditch. And who takes the field? Which doesn't really fit, by the way, the language of the world that we're inhabiting here, right? Because where's Quidditch practiced? So who really cares if they take the field? It doesn't matter who's in the air first, so why don't the Gryffindors just get on the brooms and get up there and say, all right, come on. Let's have a go. Let's have a scrimmage. Slytherins against Gryffindors, So, they're having practice, and Malfoy and his team go out there. Why is Malfoy now on the team? Well, Harry was last year because McGonagall, kind of was able to bend the... Louder?
His way on.
His father did what? He bought them all brand new brooms. Okay? Yeah, the best brooms. And Hermione comes down there and says, page 112, at least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in. They got in on pure talent. And she's kind of going, Harry, Harry, Harry. Just rubbing Malfoy's, nose in it. The smug look on Malfoy's face flickered. No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudbutt, and all hell breaks loose. Harry knew at once that Malfoy had said something really bad because there was an instant uproar at his words. Flint had to dive in front of Malfoy to stop Fred and George jumping on him. Alicia shrieked, how dare you! Ron plunged his hand into his robes, pulling out his wand, saying, you'll pay for that, Malfoy. Why Ron? Keep going. Say it. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly it. This is Ron being a daring, showing nerve, brave, courageous, chivalric Gryffindor. He's coming to the defense of a damsel in distress. Now, Hermione's never really in distress. I mean, she could take care of herself. Her wand might as well be, a Glock. I mean, she's just... Okay? Poor Ron, however. Here's the tip of the wand. He's got it pointed backwards. And he utters this curse. He starts belching up slugs. So, Harry and Hermione take Ron off to Hagrid's house. They figure Hagrid can help him and to get him away from everybody else. And, Hagrid says, wisely, page 114, better out than in. Get them all up, Ron. And they talk about Lockhart. And because Hagrid says, Lockhart was just here telling me some stuff. What a bunch of nonsense. Hermione says, I think you're being too hard on him. I mean, Dumbledore thought highly of him. He's the best man for the job. Hagrid, he's the only man for the job. And I mean the only one. Getting very difficult to find anyone for the dark arts job. People aren't too keen to take it on, see? They're starting to think it's jinxed. Starting? When was the last time somebody held the Defense Against the Dark Arts job for more than 1 year? The year before Harry was born. Harry's now 12. So for the last 12 years, okay, for the last 12 years, they've had a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher every year. As we're going to see in the next 3 or 4 years, they have a new defense. It is jinxed, okay? So, they talk about Malfoy and what Malfoy said. Ron, Malfoy called her mudblood. Hagrid, he didn't. He did. Hermione says, but I don't know what it means. Why would Hermione not know the word mudblood?
No one's going to write about it.
She's muggle-born.
She's muggle-born. She hasn't heard it. It's not in any of the books she reads. Why? What kind of word is it? It's not like they have a wizarding version of Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer. It's not like they've got Nigger Jim running around the place. Okay? There you said the word. It's going to be on YouTube. It's there. Okay? It is the equivalent of nigger in our world. What does it mean? Mud blood. One born of impure blood. That term was actually used in the early 20th century to describe blacks as people born from mud. I think J.K. Rowling knows her little bit of American history dealing with the rise of the KKK. Okay? If for no other reason, then we're going to see Death Eaters who kind of dressed like members of the KKK. They put on their white sheets and go off with torches and, But she says, I don't know what it means. Ron, it's a really foul name for someone who is muggle-born, non-magic parents. I mean, some wizards, like the Malfoys, they think they're better than everyone else because they're what people call pureblood. And what could somebody say at this point? Yeah, and then there's Hagrid who talks about people who have rotten blood. Is there any difference between those who talk about pure blood and those who talk about rotten blood? Rotten to the core. Okay? I mean, the rest of us know it doesn't make any difference, Ron says. I mean, look at Neville. He's pure blood. He can hardly stand a cauldron the right way up. And Hagrid says, and they haven't made a spell that our Hermione can't do. It's a disgusting thing, Ron says. Dirty blood, see? Common blood. It's ridiculous. Most wizards these days are half-blood anyway. If we hadn't married muggles, we'd have died out. But the Weasleys aren't. The Weasleys are pure blood. The Longbottoms are pure blood. The Malfoys are pure blood. We find one or two other families that get mentioned that are pure blood. All the others are somewhat mixed. Okay? Why is Harry called a half-blood, by the way?
Potter is pure blood.
Okay, the Potters are pure blood, but his mother's parents are muggles. So she is a muggle-born. She would be a mud blood. Yet, and this is just, theoretical, is Willie not... Willie. is Lily, or Willie if you want, we'll just do some gender bending. Is Lily not fully a witch? She is. So James is fully a wizard, so wouldn't that make Harry pure blood? No, this is the problem when you talk about blood in that genealogical kind of sense. He would be, I guess, 1/4 not wizard, 1/4 muggle born. And then when he and Jenny later on have children, channeling Gollum now. Yes, master. You know, they have children. Those children are going to be what? 1/8. And then you go all the way down the line until you know, whatever. So, we find out Ron has his detention. Harry has his detention. He does it. And what does he hear as he's leaving or just getting ready to leave? He's writing the last envelope. Page 120. Come to me. Let me rip you. Let me tear you. And he's like, what? So did you hear that? Lockhart doesn't hear anything. So Harry leaves. He goes off. He tells Ron. Okay. Ron says, don't get it. We get to the next chapter, the Death Day Party. Okay. What is the Death Day Party? Not Nicholas Flamel. Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington. Nearly Headless Nick. What day is it? October 31st. What year? That's when he died. It's his 500th death day. That's telling us when this is set. 1992. That's when this is set. Right? So, it's 1992, and he's celebrating his death day. I'm going to skip the whole party and the headless hunt and all that kind of stuff. What's important? Harry hears the voice again when they leave. And they follow the voice to where it leads, and where does it lead? Well, there's that 3rd floor hallway again. Same one that Fluffy was hidden nearby or in. It's because it's where what's-her-name's bathroom is.
But in the Death Day party, doesn't she say, like, doesn't Hermione say Moaning Myrtle haunts a bathroom on the 1st floor, and then the rest of the book they're like, it's on the 2nd floor? In the Death Day party, she says.
Oh, that's right, because they meet up with Moaning Myrtle. There she is. Peeves lets.
Yeah. She haunts one of the toilets in the girls' bathroom on the 1st floor, page bottom of 132. And then, like, the rest of the.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just noticed that it was like.
It's just later, I'm pretty sure we're going to be told again it's 3rd floor.
Yeah, because I noticed there was like some discrepancy there while I was reading it, but I couldn't remember.
That's a flaw I never caught before. Is it that Hermione's wrong or oops, writing wise? Anyways, they follow the voice, and where does it lead them? Who do they find? 3 minutes we have left. Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat. What? She's just walking around. Hanging by her tail with the word, mudbloods beware, air of Slytherin, okay? Enemies of the air, beware, okay? Chamber of Secrets has been opened, enemies of the air, beware. Ron, let's get out of here. 139. Harry, shouldn't we try and help? Ron, trust me, we don't want to be found here. Okay? Why does Harry want to help? It's his nature. I mean, help what? We can untie her, okay? But, enemies of the air, beware, you'll be next. Mudbloods, Malfoy comes in, they get caught. Who wants to immediately punish Harry? And Snape. Why? Why does Snape want to punish Harry?
Because he didn't get to.
He wants to get him off the Quidditch team. Okay, he's such a small-minded person. Okay? Who thinks he knows what the problem is? And it's completely wrong. Lockhart. Okay. So we find out, page 144, when Snape says, it's got to be Potter, I know he did it, etc. Dumbledore says, innocent until proven guilty, Severus. Jump to book 5. Who says innocent until proven guilty? Oh, I'll take that back. Jump to book 3. Okay. What happened to Sirius Black when he was found where 13 muggles were blown apart, blown to pieces? He had no trial. He was sent straight to Alcatraz, a.k.a. Azkaban. There was no innocence until proven guilty. It was just guilty. Gone. Okay? So here's seemingly a law that's implied that does not apparently exist in the wizarding world. Or if it does exist, as we're going to hear in the next book, the laws can be what? Cornelius Fudge is going to say, we can massage them a little bit. We can bend them how we want. How useful is it to have laws if they can be bent like that? Okay, we'll stop there.